There are lots of things all around us, exciting things that surround us.
But how does it work?
Do you know?
How is it made?
Do you know? Things that go up, things that go down, things that go pop, things that go round, with special cameras to show you inside. It's going to be a big surprise.
But how does it work?
Do you know?
How is it made?
Do you know? Do you know?
Let's find out!
Hello, I'm Maddie. It's a really warm day outside today, so I need a nice cold drink. I really like a glass of cold milk. And the milk is cold because the temperature inside the fridge is much cooler than the temperature in the kitchen. We keep lots of different drinks and food inside the fridge, don't we? We have some vegetables, yogurt, cheese, and fruit, including my favourite, strawberries. Because it's cooler inside the fridge, it keeps the food we use every day fresher for longer. But how does the fridge stay cold to keep our food fresh? Do you know how a fridge works? Let's find out. How does it work?
Fridge.
Take a look at this fridge here. It's just like the one we have in our kitchen, but this one's had a few pieces taken away, so we can get a better look at how it works. Can you see all the way around the fridge door there's this piece of rubber? It's called the seal, and inside the seal there's a magnet, and the magnet helps to keep the fridge door shut. And the seal keeps the cold air inside the fridge sealed in and the warm air outside the fridge sealed out. But I really like the noise it makes. Listen to this. It's like a suction noise, isn't it?
You mustn't try to get to the back of your fridge at home, so I'm going to show you what it looks like and how it works.
A fridge needs power to work, so it's plugged into an electric socket. And the electricity is needed to power this machine here. It's called a compressor.
The compressor is a type of pump which moves gas around the fridge to keep it cool.
So this is where a gas enters the compressor, and that is where it leaves it. The pipe that comes out of the compressor snakes back and forward all the way to the top of the fridge and all the way back down again. That's a lot of pipes, but eventually the pipe goes inside the fridge.
This fridge has had its plastic lining removed inside, so we can see where the pipe goes next. It snakes around the top part of the fridge and then back down again to the compressor. In total, the pipe is 35 metres long. That's nearly as long as 8 family cars.
But how does that pipe work to keep the fridge nice and cold? To find out, I think we need to take a closer look.
At the back of the fridge, inside the pipe, is a special liquid called refrigerant. This travels through a part called the expansion valve, where it's pushed through really quickly, turning it from a liquid into a vapour. As the vapour flows through the pipe inside the fridge, it absorbs and removes heat from the food inside, and this turns the vapour into a gas. It's called evaporation. It keeps the fridge and the food inside cold too. Then the gas travels to the compressor. The compressor pushes the hot gas out through a pipe, which squeezes the gas molecules together. And as the molecules move closer together, the gas cools and turns back into a liquid. This is called condensing. The liquid refrigerant moves through the pipe at the back of the fridge, ready to start the whole process again.
Wasn't that interesting? I'm going to show you how cold it gets inside the fridge using my special camera. This is a thermal imaging camera, and it shows me how hot or cold things are by showing different colours. So these grapes, let's see what colour they are on the camera. Oh, look! The grapes look yellow and a little bit orange. That's because they're quite warm out here on the kitchen table. The milk has been in the fridge, so what colour do you think it's going to be? Look at that! The grapes are yellow, but the milk is dark blue. That's because it is much, much colder. So what do you think will happen if I put the grapes in the fridge? What colour will they be then? Whoa, inside the fridge, it looks dark, solid blue. What colour do you think the grapes will turn if I leave them in the fridge for a few minutes? Should we find out? Now, you mustn't do this with your camera at home, but I've got special permission to put the thermal camera inside the fridge so I can show you the grapes cooling down. To make the grapes colder, the compressor is pumping the special refrigerant liquid around those condenser pipes at the back of the fridge. Inside the pipes in the fridge, the refrigerant is turning into a gas as it absorbs the heat and takes away the warmth from the grapes. And then that gas goes back down to the compressor, where it's turned back into a liquid again. And it keeps going round and round and round. Right, the grapes have been in there for a few minutes. Should we see what they look like on the thermal camera? Oh, look! The grapes have been inside the fridge for a few minutes, so they've cooled down, and now they look blue. How clever is that? I loved seeing how fridges work. What was your favourite part?
Do you remember the name of the machine that pumps the refrigerant around the fridge? That's right, it's called a compressor. Did you hear the sound the fridge door made when it opened and closed?
It's like a suction noise, isn't it?
And did you see how the fridge made the grapes turn from yellow and orange to blue on my special camera?
Now, I'm going to make some lunch. What do you like to have for your lunch? I think I'm going to have an omelette. But do we have all of the ingredients? We've got eggs, a dash of milk, some cheese. Oh, how about some mushrooms? Do you know what mushrooms are? They're not a fruit like an apple or a strawberry because they don't grow from seeds. And they're not a vegetable like a carrot or a broccoli, which grow from roots or stems. Mushrooms are from a group of food called fungus, which don't have leaves, seeds or roots. But do you know how a mushroom is made? Let's find out.
How is it made?
Mushrooms.
Here they make mushrooms on a massive scale. Along this corridor there are 48 rooms and each one has mushrooms growing inside. They grow 160 tons of mushrooms every week. That's 500,000 packs like this. And if you stacked them all up, they would be 4 times higher than Mount Everest. That's a lot of mushrooms. Unlike plants, mushrooms don't grow from seeds like this. Instead, they grow from something called a spore, but spores are so tiny we can't see them. They're microscopic. And to see microscopic things, you need a very special microscopic camera.
This helps us see things 1,000 times bigger than they actually are. So let's see if we can see the microscopic spores on this glass slide.
Wow, can you see that? All of those tiny little dark ovals, those are the spores. And every single one of those will grow into a mushroom. The first thing we need to make a spore into a mushroom is compost, and it gets delivered here in this big lorry. And look, there it is, going up that conveyor belt now.
It's really noisy, isn't it? We can use compost to grow lots of things, like plants, flowers and vegetables in the garden. This compost is made of straw, water and a powder called gypsum. And it's a bit smelly. That's because the last important ingredient is poo from farm animals like chickens.
This machine spreads a layer of compost onto a mat, and then a layer of a type of soil called peat is added on top before it all gets a sprinkling of water.
The spores have already been mixed into this compost, and because they have grown a little, they're now called spawn. They're moved inside to grow some more on these long factory shelves.
They're a bit like bunk beds, but for mushrooms.
To help the spawn grow, everything inside the room is controlled by a computer. The temperature, the amount of air, even the water.
The computer controls an automatic watering system, which sprinkles water through here to keep the soil nice and moist. It takes just 17 days to grow a mushroom of this size. But how do we go from the spawn in the compost mixture to this?
Let's see what happens at the different stages of growing.
The spawn has been left to grow on these shelves for 7 days, and it's turned into something called mycelium. And can you see all of this white cobweb-like stuff on top of the soil? Well, that's the mycelium, these tiny white threads. And now the computer will tell this room to get really, really cold. And that cold temperature will make the mycelium clump together and turn into mushrooms. In just 2 days' time, tiny mushrooms start to pop up, and look at all of these. I think they look a bit like little snowmen, don't you? But these aren't quite big enough yet.
Once the mushrooms have popped out of the compost, they grow twice as big every day until they're finally ready.
The mushrooms in here have been growing for 17 days, and that means they're ready for picking, and I've been given special permission to help.
You should never pick mushrooms you find yourself. These mushrooms are grown especially to eat.
Now, today we're looking for mushrooms that are about that size. We call them button mushrooms. To pick them, all I need to do is give the mushroom a twist. I need to just give it a quick trim so it looks nice and clean, and pop it in this container, which is called a punnet.
Once the punnet is full, it's stacked onto a tray and then taken to a really cold room called the cold store, which keeps the mushrooms fresh.
When the mushrooms have cooled down, they go next door, into the packing room.
Here the mushrooms are taken out of the trays and are put onto a conveyor belt.
The punnets are weighed to make sure they have the right amount in, and then they go through this machine here, which wraps them in plastic, ready to keep them fresh on their journey to the shops. Finding out how mushrooms are made here has been so interesting. What was your favourite part?
Do you remember the name of the tiny strands that grow into mushrooms? That's right, they're called mycelium. Did you hear the sound of the conveyor as it carried the compost along? And did you see the tiny mushroom spores under my special microscopic camera?
So the next time you see mushrooms in a supermarket or cook them at home, you'll know how they were made. And now you know how a fridge works to keep food cool. I'll see you next time.
There are lots of things